Hey there, welcome to another episode of our Smallholding. I'm in the domestic vegetable garden. I've just been picking some of these broad beans that we have to my right. It has still been quite wet here at the farm, with rains at least twice or three times a week. I'm trying to pick some of these broad beans before they start to go all moldy on me. I'm hoping that I've gotten them beforehand, but it's just been hard to get out here sometimes when it is dry while there's other things going on. On the whole, things in the garden here are doing quite well. The pak choi, the rocket that I planted a few weeks back, is coming on really well. The spinach that we cut back has kind of recovered. It's on its last hurrah. I'll end up having to replace it in the next 2 or 3 months, but other than that, there's still a little bit that we can be getting from that. And the weeds have been going wild again, unfortunately. There's not too much that I can do about that. We've been weeding in other areas, trying to get that under control, and it is what it is at this time of year. You can even hear thunder around me. We did get a fairly quick downpour early this morning. The sun then came out. Now the sun is disappearing. You can see behind me over here the blue skies, and then behind me this way there should be gray skies coming on. So it is what it is at this time of year. We just have to kind of deal with it and go with the flow. But other than that, let's have a look around and see what else has been going on around the farm. So this here is a star fruit, or carambola, that I planted quite a number of years ago now, actually. I was very excited. This year was the first year that it actually started to produce flowers. So I was really hoping that I was going to be getting some fruits for the first time. But earlier this week, I noticed termites. They'd come up, they'd completely covered the base of the stem here in terms of their soil tunnels and things like that. They've chewed away the outer bark here. So I'm uncertain what the actual fate of this tree is going to be. Unfortunately, we also had termites attacking another one of the passion fruits that we have growing on the plot. With this rain, I don't exactly know why they are attacking living material. There's plenty of wood and things like that for them to eat. But unfortunately, they've done quite a bit of damage to the outer bark. So obviously, the leaves are still getting water through the xylem, but I'm not so certain as to what's going to happen with the bark and whether or not the plant is still going to be able to send photosynthate down to the roots. So I will keep an eye on this over the next several weeks and just keep my fingers crossed that I don't lose it. So we've basically almost finished the grassland indigenous garden in the front. You can kind of see behind me the space to my left has been cleared. The space just over here has still larger weeds and grass. We can't get rid of everything in this space, unfortunately. Well, fortunately as well. But on the whole, it is looking quite good. I'm very, very happy with the effect, where it's now just basically the grass that we have growing in here and a few of the other indigenous things that I have been planting myself, including something like this fantastically tall member of the Amaranthaceae family. It has come up every year. It looks fantastic. It has these beautiful little white inflorescences that almost cover the upper parts of the plant. It is fantastic. Great plant. But hopefully this week we'll finish up the grassland section here and can move on to other areas. But because of the rain coming, going, it makes actually getting this area done quite a bit more difficult. In that interim, I've been going and weeding in other areas with other indigenous beds and things like that, but it's still taking its time, unfortunately. This year has been quite disruptive with the rains. If we just check in on the pigeon peas that were sown a few months back, they've done very well with all of this rain. They are now at least over a meter tall, most of them. The initial slashing that we did of the grass as competition has worked really well. Now the grasses are putting up flower stalks, but they're not then going to be competing with this pigeon pea. So I'm very happy with how these are growing on, and we will just do a little bit more clearing around them so that they don't have too much more competition, but ultimately it's come on very, very well. Here in the orchard, some of the fruits are starting to ripen. We've got little kumquats coming on here. Now, I would usually prefer to leave them to ripen until they're decently orange. But this year we've had quite a bad infestation of fruit fly. I don't spray, so what damage they do to the fruit, they do to the fruit. I have to live with it. The nice thing with the kumquats is that they're usually something that I can then still harvest when they're just starting to turn color and cook them into something like a compote. I do occasionally eat them fresh when they're nice and orange, and usually have that kind of nice, kind of sweet and bitter taste with the rind and the flesh. But unfortunately, you know, not all years are the same. So this year I'll probably most likely be harvesting a lot more of these to then make into compote with some of the mango and mulberry that I had preserved and frozen in their freezer for that purpose, actually. So unfortunate, but we'll still make use of as much of the fruits as we can. So finally, I also spent some time actually replacing some poles in our fencing. Because of things like termites, I prefer to go with metal poles, and these are just metal round bar. I buy it at lengths of 6 meters. I then cut it into about 1.5 meters each. We paint it with iron oxide to retard the rusting. It will still rust effectively, but this keeps it good for quite a bit longer. And then this goes in to help keep the fence nice and solid. I have used pieces of timber that we got from the plot from a specific tree called Birdavia. Sorry about that. It is an indigenous tree to Malawi. I don't know if it actually does occur in Zambia. It has good trunks that can withstand termite damage, but they still eventually do get eaten or at least degraded by fungi and things like that. So they might last 2 or 3 years, but then ultimately I prefer to go with these metal poles because they won't have any problems unless, you know, you don't protect it. So I am still in the process of changing other areas with poles, but it's good with this amount of rain that these are much easier to get into the ground effectively during this time of year than, say, if we were trying to do this in the dry season. So there will be more of these to still change over, and more areas to put up a bit more fencing as I develop some copses in the goat enclosure areas to keep them out and allow other trees to get up and start to grow. But I think for this week I'm going to leave it there. It has been drizzling on and off. You never know at what point in time it's actually just going to come down heavily. So please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.